Hello, hello. Welcome to today's career strategy session. We are continuing the negotiation series. I'm super excited today to bring you all some tips and tools to help you level up with your negotiation skills. So I have received a ton of questions. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and I'm going to answer as many of the questions as we can during the time we have allotted. So my name is Jacqueline Twillie. I am a career advisor. I specialize in helping millennial women negotiate when they get job offers and at performance review time. And the reason why I get so passionate about this topic, a few years ago, I learned about the gender wage gap. At the time, women earned 77 cents on a dollar compared to a non-Hispanic white male. I was floored. I couldn't believe it. So here we are, 2016, women earn 79 cents on a dollar compared to a man. But when we break that down and we really look at the data, it's actually worse than that. 79 cents is what white women earn. And then we have Asian women who earn about 90 cents on a dollar compared to a white man. When we look at Black women, it's 64 cents, and absolutely horrifying is what Latino women earn, 54 cents on a dollar. So I'm on a personal mission, along with many other amazing organizations, to end the gender wage gap. And part of that is teaching women to negotiate. Now, there's a lot of other components to the gender wage gap, but I'm really focused on helping women negotiate. So again, that's why I help them when they go in to start the job interview process. I typically start working with people then. And I also work with people when it's coming up on time for them to get a performance review so that they can ask the right questions and ask the right way to avoid backlash and get more of what they want, more specifically the salary. So I have a ton of questions from you all today. You sent some great questions, and I'm just going to go through as many as I can for the time we have allotted. If you want to send me a question, you can tweet me, JB Twillie. JB Twillie, you see my name here on the screen. You can also email me. Just go over to jacquelinetwillie.com. You'll have all of my contact information there. And I am going to do another session where I just answer all of your questions. So this week we have a question, and I'm going to keep the names out of it, you all. So our first question says, I failed at my last negotiation. Now I'm terrified to try again. What should I do? All right. This is something that I appreciate you being honest for, that you consider that you failed at your last negotiation. But I want to challenge you and say you did not fail. The only time you fail is when you don't try. So there's a couple of things that you probably learned from that experience negotiating. So what I'd like you to do is head over to my website. I'm going to post this today. It's going to be a post-negotiation evaluation where you can kind of go through and evaluate yourself and say, these are the things that I did well. These are the things I'd like to change next time. Did I do my proper research up front? And it'll help you to really get into a mode where you're looking at your negotiation after the fact and evaluating yourself on some objective metrics so that you don't make the same mistakes next time. But the fact that you negotiated and the fact that you tried is really, really good. Now, how do you overcome that fear? The way that you overcome the fear is by being over-prepared next time. So look at what you did last time. Did you go in well prepared? Did you know all of the facts and figures related to the things that you were requesting in terms of your salary? Or, was it something else that you were on that you missed? Whatever that is, just go in there, get super into it, do your research. I can't stress this enough. I talk about this in the Navigating the Career Jungle podcast, and I talk about it in this video series. You want to talk to people who are in the industry. You want to get some online data to make sure that when you go in to have the conversation, you're going in knowing what you're talking about. The more you know what you're talking about, the more your confidence boosts, the more you kick fear to the side. All right. So great question. Again, head over to my website later today. I am going to post that post-negotiation survey so that you can evaluate yourself each time, and feel free to share it with your friends as well. All right. So our next question is, this company that I am interviewing with, they're creating a position for me. I feel like I should be grateful and not negotiate the salary. All right. It's flattering when someone creates a position for you. I know firsthand, if it happened for me, I would be elated. Okay, so I get it. But you want to make sure that you're negotiating based off of facts and not off of feelings. So I want you to go to salary.com, payscale.com, glassdoor.com. Find out what people are earning in the city that you're working in, because what you really want to do is you want to make sure that the offer that they give you is in line with what people do with the same type of job title in that city, that geographic area. So get really specific if you can. Look up the zip code. If not, look up the metro area if you're like on the outskirts of a major city or something like that, because you want to make sure that what you're going in and you're negotiating for is based off of facts and data. So again, express your gratitude, express your excitement. Of course, you're going to nail it. They're creating a position for you. So re-emphasize that you're going to go in and you're going to hit the metrics that they set for you. And if you determine that the salary is a little bit lower, say, hey, I noticed that the salary is a little bit below market rate. I'm very appreciative that this position is being created for me. Is there any way we can meet in the middle and get closer to that market range? And even that's if you know their financial situation. Sometimes the finances don't allow for them to pay you market value. And then let's talk about equity and some other things in the company that can kind of close that gap for you. So the only way that you know if you're getting a good deal or a bad deal is if you do your research. So with that, express your gratitude, do your research. If you determine you're being paid below market rate, don't be afraid to negotiate because they're creating this position for you. Again, congratulations. I'm super excited for you. That is phenomenal that you have this opportunity in front of you. All right. So our next question is, how do I address the online applications that request my salary information up front? Another great question. So I want to take us back to the research. I've mentioned salary.com, payscale.com, glassdoor.com. Go back to these websites. What I want you to do is, before you apply for a position, do some research quickly. Find out what are people being paid in this market for the position that you're applying for. And you want to put that salary in the range. Now, there's going to be a low end of a salary and a high end. What I want you to do is shoot for the high end. Why? Because expectations drive behavior. Margaret Neal, who is a guru in negotiations, she is professor at Stanford University. That's one of her famous lines. I absolutely love it. She again says, expectations drive behavior. What that means is if you shoot for the lower end of the range, you're never going to get to the higher end of the range. But if you shoot high, and if you don't get that highest part of the range, you're going to get closer to it than if you started off at the bottom. So start at the top and make sure that you share, hey, I've done some research. I know that the salary range for this position is this. Now, you're putting that number in up front, so you're not having the conversation yet. But when you get on the phone with, let's say, the recruiter for that position, they're going to say, you know, what do you make now? That's where they're going to kind of look at the number you put in the box and look at your current salary. And you just want to be honest with them and share, you know, based on what I know about this job so far, it's going to be different from what I was doing in the past. So I'm basing this off of the range that is appropriate for this title in this city based on my research. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the job just so that I make sure I have a good understanding? Notice you didn't throw out your current salary. You addressed the number, and you're addressing that you want to be compensated for the position that you're interviewing for, that you're applying for, not necessarily you don't want to be compensated for the job that you had in the past. Now remember, I just shared with you, women earn less than men. It's a fact all across the board, all industries. So with that, you don't want to stay at the position where you're negotiating on what you earned before, because chances are you weren't getting paid what you were worth. So use that tactic. Again, don't be combative. I don't want anyone to think that if you're combative in a negotiation, it'll get you further ahead than someone else. Because what will happen is if you go in combative trying to bump heads, that person is going to say, I don't really want to work with that person, this person who's negotiating with me. And likability matters in negotiation. Let's just be honest. We do business with people that we like. And when you're negotiating your salary, you are doing business with someone that you're going to be working with for a relatively long amount of time. So you want to establish a good foundation. Don't go into it combative. Go in with it as a win-win attitude, saying, I'm going to add value to the company in these ways. I'm going to help the company reach their goals in these ways. And then on the flip side, the company is going to compensate me properly. Win-win. All right. So another great question about how to address that number when you put in the salary in the box. It's all based on the position that you're applying for, not the position that you necessarily had in the past. All right. Great questions. So our next question comes from someone who says, I am going into a negotiation with two pros. I probably will be face-to-face and I'm a little bit terrified. What should I do? All right, so without having additional context for this question, what I would say for you, you're going into a negotiation with two pros. Go in feeling confident. The way that you go in feeling confident is over prepare. So I don't know in which context you are negotiating in, but you want to go in knowing all of the facts and figures related to the topic that you're going to be discussing. So let me give you an example. If you're in real estate, if you're going in to negotiate the cost of a house, you want to make sure that you have all of the comps for the area. You want to make sure that you have the appraisal for the house that you're negotiating for, or the property, if it's a commercial property. You want to know, how fast things have been selling in that area. You also want to make sure that you know all of the details about the other properties that have sold in the area. So go in over prepared. If you go in and you know everything about the topic that you're going to discuss, or know as much as you can, you're going to give yourself a level up. So if they come at you with a question or a statement or a counter offer, you can quickly counter because you have your facts and figures. Even if you have to flip through your notebook and say, oh yeah, there was that other property down the street that sold for XYZ, but that wasn't upgraded and there was a problem with the roof and it sold as is. So you can kind of give some facts and figures, and when they see that you know what you're talking about, they're going to be like, okay. Now, along with that, you said it was two people. I don't know if you're going in alone or not, but if you can bring back up and kind of use that good cop, bad cop strategy. So I'm going to talk about the good cop, bad cop strategy in negotiations in the upcoming weeks, but what I want you to do first is go in prepared. If you can bring someone along with you, make sure that they are equally as prepared as you are, which means that you share all of that information that you're gathering. You share it with the person that you're going to be bringing into the negotiation with you. And in addition to that, you want to make sure you have a very thorough conversation with the person who's coming along with you prior to you going into that meeting with the two other people. So when I say a thorough conversation, I'm not talking about chatting about it on the way to the meeting. I'm talking about sitting down maybe 2 or 3 hours and just going through the details and making sure that you all feed off of each other, that you know if they say this, I'm going to say that, and have a true game plan going in. So make sure that you outline their interests. This is something that I talk about often. Make sure you outline the other party's interests that you're negotiating with, outline your interests, and then kind of brainstorm some ways that you can meet in the creative middle where you can, again, create a win-win. Now, with that, if you're in the negotiation, if you're getting frazzled, if you have to go by yourself and you feel overwhelmed and you need to take a break, just ask for a bathroom break. Take a bottle of water, drink a lot of water so that you'll have an excuse if you need to do a quick moment where you can regroup so that you don't feel like you're being ganged up on. All right? So good question. I hope that helps. Without knowing the context, I just kind of gave you some general tips there. All right, last question for today. Okay, great. So this person says, in the past, you covered how we should address a recruiter who pushes us for our current salary. I just dealt with a situation where the recruiter told me that they could not move on in the process if I didn't share with them my current salary. Well, it depends. With this, I think that if your position that you're interviewing for is completely different from the position that you have now, then your past salary isn't as relevant because we're not comparing apples to apples here. You're doing a completely different job. Now, if you're doing the same job, you can share, hey, For instance, I had a client who just moved to Atlanta from New York. She was making $100,000 in Atlanta, in New York. So she moved to Atlanta. Of course, the cost of living is different. So she shared with them, hey, I was making $100,000 in my past role in New York. Now I know the cost of living is different, but I want to be as close as possible to what I earn in New York. I'm willing to take on additional responsibilities so that it makes sense for the organization to compensate me in this way. So that's one way to address it. I don't want to go out and make any assumptions that what you earned in your last position is going to be always lower than what you made before, because in this case, this lady moved from a city where she was earning more. She definitely moved to a city where the cost of living was cheaper, but she addressed that up front, and she offered to take on additional responsibility so that it made sense for the company to compensate her based on, you know, the additional work that she was doing so that she could be closer to that range. Now, I don't want to contradict myself there, because it is a fact that women earn less than men across the board. So with that, again, you want to make sure that you do your research, and you can say, you know, in my last position, I was underpaid. I was earning XYZ, but, you know, in this position, I know I'm going to bring over the same success rate that I had in my last position, which means, and go and give some specifics of things that you're being interviewed for, or the things that you think they'll want you to interview for, so that you can move forward in the process if they're stuck on that price, and tell them, hey, I want to be compensated, you know, along the market value, which is XYZ, and my past salary was this, and that's part of the reason why I'm looking, is because, you know, I wasn't able to be compensated at market rate. So be honest, don't overshare though. So let me talk about that really quickly. You don't want to get into a point where you put all of your cards on the table so that the other side has an advantage. Let's say the recruiter knows everything about you. They can kind of strong arm you and put you in a position where you're like, oh, what do? I gave away too much information. So share sparingly, okay? But if they continue to press you on that, I would say the first thing that I would say is, hey, can you tell me more about the position? Because I really want to make sure that my salary range aligns with the work that I'm going to be doing. And then, you know, last resort, you can go and you can share your current salary, but tell them you're expecting market rate, okay? The only way you're going to know your market rate, if you talk to industry professionals and if you do some additional research by checking out some of the websites that I shared with you. I want to thank you all for joining me today during your lunch break. If you're not watching this live, you can send questions to me. Just head over to JacquelineTwillie.com. You can pop in your questions on the website. You can shoot me an email, send me a tweet, and I'm also really active on Facebook. I want to invite all of you who are watching this video to join the Navigating the Career Jungle Facebook group. If you send in the request, that's a private community where we share lots of tips and encouragement for people who are negotiating and just navigating the career jungle so that they can reach their ultimate career aspirations and goals for this phase of their career. All right, you all, I'll talk to you later. I want you to remember, emulate excellence and eliminate excuses.